Welcome to the Coffee with Closer show, where we interview real investors that are doing real deals in this current market about how they are finding, funding, and flipping the deals. We talk about what they are doing that is working and the things they did that didn't work so that you can save time and money as you become a real investor. Welcome to the Coffee with Closer show. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Coffee with Closer show. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is probably going to be one of my favorite Coffee with Closer shows because I got a guy on the line. Dan, can you say hi to everybody?
What's up, everybody? How are you?
What's up? But the reason I have Dan on this show is because Dan is like the ninja in the background helping some of these investors that we're even interviewing and how they're getting all their leads and how they're getting all their deals. And so I thought to myself, okay, so Dan's not out there actually closing deals, but Dan's the one that's helping all these guys close deals. Dan, am I on the right path right now?
You are on the right path, man. I mean, I don't know exactly how ninja-like I am, but all I do all day is help investors close deals. So that's pretty accurate, I'd say.
So Dan, what's the name of your company, by the way?
So I run an advertising agency. It's called AdWords Nerds.
AdWords Nerds.
Yeah, AdWords Nerds.
I need to pair my nerd.
That was the name we picked, and now we're stuck with it. And I like it. I'm not defensive about it anymore. I'm into it.
I like it. I think it's great. AdWords Nerds, right? I mean, because all the guys that I know that run massive traffic for their real estate business, it's like there's two types of people, right? There's the person who's all into real estate and they want to be out looking at houses. They want to be dealing with the contractors, but they know they need traffic. I mean, like the ones watching this, they know they need leads. Like no business survives without leads. Yeah. But when they start going in and trying to figure out all the stuff that they're like, look, man, I'm not that geeky. I'm not that nerd, right?
Right.
So my point to that is your name fits perfectly.
Yeah, the whole idea is like, hey, you want to bring the nerds, bring some nerds into your team, team up with us and kind of grow that part of your business. And that's the part that I love. We were talking about before, you were saying like, it's like, I don't personally close deals. I have no interest in doing the real estate part. Like,
you don't want to deal with toilets and trash and tenants?
No. Seriously, I always say like, it makes my palms sweaty to think about it. Like, I don't like it, but I love thinking about acquiring deals as that is like a score on a scoreboard. And to me, it's like, it's all about how can I drive that number up as high as humanly possible for my clients for the least amount of money in the fastest possible way. And it's constantly changing. It's constantly challenging and interesting. And that's what I love. So it's like,
awesome.
It's a perfect marriage. If you don't want to do that stuff, I don't want to do the investment stuff, but I think together it works really well.
Well, and I think that's I was having this conversation with someone. We were talking about partnerships. And I said, where partnerships go wrong is when two people become partners and they do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like, where's the benefit there, right? You're both visionaries. You both do the same thing. Like, how do you conquer and divide? Like, the most successful partnerships I've ever been around or been in, the two people did completely opposite things.
Yeah.
And so they stay in their lanes. And that's like when you're growing a real estate business, one of the things we know we have to have is leads. We have to have leads. And let's just be honest. I mean, it takes time and energy and traveling and seminars and mentors and coaches and webinars and books and all the stuff to learn what you know. Yeah. And so from an investor's point of view, when we look at I need more leads, we look at that and go, oh, now I got to go learn all of that. And what's time, right? What's the cost of time? And so it's easier to partner in with somebody. And but let's talk about that. So anyways, guys, welcome to the Coffee with Closer show. I got my coffee here with me today. Dan, you got some coffee?
Yeah, I got an Americano going.
A little Americano. Mine says, if you can read my coffee, it says, celebrate the small victories.
I like it.
So I try to keep a new one. But here's the point to this. I want you guys to get your head around this. This show, we're not going to be digging into numbers on a deal, but what we will be digging into is how these investors are getting the leads using specific online type marketing. And that's where Dan comes in, and we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, Dan, tell me the journey. Tell me you were at a 9-to-5, hanging out, doing your thing, whatever that was. I don't know. You might not have been at a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But take me through that. And I mean, we don't have all day.
well, I was born a small child, and yeah. So, all right, my story. Yeah. So basically the way this worked for me was I was training to be a teacher. I want to be a history teacher at a high school level. I have my master's degrees in history and education, right?
Oh,
so
wow.
I got 2 master's degrees because why not? You know, but when you're not sure what you want to do, you just go to more school. So I was doing that. And the whole time I was doing that, I really love teaching, but I was playing in bands. Like all through college, I was playing in bands, I was touring around and stuff. And I just kind of became the guy that was running the business of the band. So I was the guy that like got the t-shirts printed and sort of set up a lot of the tour dates. I was the one that like had to make the website. And so
You're like the manager.
Yeah, kind of, but also like in charge of promoting the band, right? And like getting people to show. And, I was teaching myself all that and doing it for the band and like getting some success with it. And so people started to see that and approach me and say, hey, can you do that for me for this kind of specific instance, right? And I was like, that's kind of interesting. I was going through the whole teaching thing. I was doing my student teaching, and I was like, I'm not really making any money yet. So I was like, I'm going to freelance doing online marketing, right? And started doing that. And like, I think my first 6 months, I made more than I would have made, with 2 years of teaching full time. And I was like, okay, I love teaching, but I was kind of like bummed out about the experience I was having in public school. So I jumped into freelancing full time and, spent like 3 or 4 years just kind of trying to figure that out. I had no real business experience. And, at some point I was like, look, I need to really invest in my own education. So I paid for a Tony Robbins business seminar, right?
Oh,
yeah. So I went to that. It was the most money I'd ever spent on anything. I put it on like a credit card or something. It was like probably a terrible idea, but did that, flew down there, and I was like, I need to pick a market that I could really focus on. And I ended up sitting next to 4 real estate investors I sat all the way in the back. And they were sitting there and they were like, you need to work with real estate investors. I had 1 client that was a real estate investor already, this guy, Dan Schwartz, who now runs Investor Fuse. Mm-hmm. My first ever investor client. And he was like my favorite client because like we both liked music and we were sort of like the same age and everything. And I was like, it's a sign. I'm getting into real estate investing. And that was like about 8 years ago now.
Wow, man.
That I have been 100% focused on real estate investors.
So that is your entire client base, real estate investors.
All we do is investors. Even within investors, we are about 95% focused on purely motivated seller leads. So we don't do like buyer leads.
Right.
The whole idea of AdWords Nerds is that by having this kind of laser focus on a very specific type of client, very specific type of lead, we could be the absolute like undisputed leader in this very narrow sort of field.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happened. Like, I think we managed I think we're up to like $6 or $7 million a year in ad spend just for investors is what we have under management. And so that allows us to test things and try things like really, really quickly. And we get to be the ones that innovate in the space and kind of disseminate that to everyone else. And that's so much fun. I cannot tell you how much fun it is because we're, if we have a problem, it's up to us to solve it. There's no one ask really, right?
Yeah.
So it's
so talk to me about this for the people that are watching this. Cause I know, look, let's just be honest. There's going to be some people who watch this who have absolutely understand what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be some that are like, what is he talking about?
Yeah. Okay.
What's an ad spin? What is he doing? So let's just be real crystal clear. I want everybody to hang with me here because, my job is to reel the guest back in a little bit, right?
Reel me in, Zach. That's what I want.
So when you say we drive motivated seller leads, let's talk to the person that may not understand exactly what you're meaning there. So you're running Google ads, Bing ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads. What all are you talking about inside of your advertising budget when you say ad spend?
Yeah. So when we started the company, I called the company AdWords Nerds because Google ads was our primary thing.
8 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
That was, I mean, we were really, I mean, it's just shocking how much fast this stuff goes, because when we started, which is not that long ago, most conversations we were having were, no one even knew Google ads were a thing. It was not that long ago that was the case in the investing world, right? Now it's much more common. But what we've found over the last 3 or 4 years is that landscape has really shifted. So part of what makes us a little bit different is when I talk about online marketing, we lump everything together. Okay. So we do Google ads, Bing ads, Facebook ads, we do SEO, we do YouTube, we do Google Display Network, we do all sorts of weird ad networks that like nobody even knows about.
Right.
And we roll it all together because right now, I think what makes an investor successful is the extent to which we can get them to be everywhere at once, right?
The omni effect.
Yeah, you want to be omnipresent, right? You want to be all over the place.
Yep.
And we found that like, look, Google ads is still incredibly profitable for our clients on average, but you're going to be more profitable and have a better chance of success if you've got some money in Facebook, you've got some money in YouTube, you've got some money over here. And we're not talking about tons of money, but
it's so funny where we're having this conversation because I just got out of a coaching meeting. And my student, we were literally in my computer pulling up our Facebook ad account, and we were talking about like, hey, look, we can buy direct mail list, but that's not really going to get you the advantage. Like we want to take that list, we want to load it into a lookalike, we want to create retargeting, we want to be omnious. Like we want not to just mail them, but we want to be popping up all over the place so that we're building trust, like, and authority with them. And that's really what you're talking about is saying, hey, look, doing direct mail or doing phone calls by themselves, that's great, but it's not going to get you the trust, love, and credibility like being everywhere they go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I say everywhere they go, I mean the seller.
Yes, absolutely. Right. It's like, I always say, like, we want to make an investor essentially like a local celebrity so that by the time the seller becomes truly motivated and they are ready to sell, they just think of our client first because they're like, I've seen Zack 100 times before I ever needed him. And now that I need him, he's the one that comes to mind. Right. Boom. But the thing I always say, like, to people who are like trying to understand where this all fits, right? I always say, like, if you have any problem, like literally any problem, you want to know how tall Abraham Lincoln was, or you need to find a cardiologist because you need like a triple bypass or something. Right. The way you solve that problem is by going online. That is how we solve all problems. I mean, it's like, I haven't picked open like the yellow pages in over a decade, right? I'm not like, I need a plumber, like, let me go to P and the yellow. It just doesn't happen. And so it is the same exact thing when sellers decide they want to sell. And if you look at demographic trends, right now, more than 50% of all home sales happen either in Gen X or younger boomers or in the millennial generations. Essentially what that means is these are all primarily internet using generations when it comes to solving problems, right? Like younger boomers, basically my mom, she has a problem, she goes and she Googles like doctors or whatever, right? Yeah. Anybody that's below her in age, or they ask Siri for everything. Yeah, they ask Siri, they ask their phone, like that's what they use for everything. And that demographic trend, demographic trends go in one direction, right? It's like no one's going backwards, we're only going forwards. And so more and more of home sales are happening primarily online. They're taking place online. They're starting online. So for me, I don't personally care, if any particular investor works with my company, if you use Google or Facebook, everybody's got their own thing that they like. But I like deeply and truly believe that if you're an investor and you don't have some kind of online marketing strategy, you're not going to be in business in 10 years. That's how dire I think it is. So every time I do a show like this, I always say, like, doesn't have to be with me, doesn't have to be with anyone particular, but you need some kind of plan so that when someone goes online, they can find you when they want to sell a house. Does that make sense?
Trust me, I'm with you, man. I'm excited about this. I mean, this is where marketing is now. What you're saying, this is marketing, right? I mean, it is be everywhere and be in front of people constantly, because 90%, well, what's the old statistic says? 78% of the people will never sell to you on the first phone call anyways, right? Or they'll never come to you on the first postcard. So if we're expecting to get more, we have to continue following up and keep being everywhere. Like you said, become the authority figure in that market. And surprisingly, you don't have to have a big office with lots of staff to create that presence if you do your online presence and marketing correctly.
Yeah, it's actually, it is easier and cheaper to do that than it has ever been. So what I was saying, there is definitely a barrier to entry there where it's like, hey, you got to figure it out and, whatever. But the good news is that, man, you could get the kind of reach and impact on your market for like $100 that would have taken tens of thousands of dollars to do on TV 10 years ago, right?
True.
So it is a massively different marketplace.
Well, and think about how many people are unplugging right now from their TVs. They're just like, I've got a phone, I've got an iPad, like I don't need a TV anymore.
Yeah, I go straight to Netflix or whatever it is.
Yeah, so they're not even watching the news or the commercials. And here's the other thing. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm this guy. I record all my shows that if I want to watch them. Why do I record them? So I don't have to watch commercials.
Yeah.
Right. So all those people spending tens of thousands of dollars to maybe target me, I'm going right by them. Yeah. Where in ad placement, like you're talking about through a phone, I mean, we're in their face constantly. They can't fast forward through that ad.
Yeah. I mean, it is, I mean, I always say this, like, to give an example of like how different this is, right? If I told, let's say I went back 20 years ago and I said, hey, I'm opening up an advertising company. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on television, and everyone that watches this TV show is going to have to see your brand and your logo and like what you do. They're going to have to watch it for 5 seconds.
True.
And I'm not going to charge you. It's going to be free.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, okay.
That would be, it's like, I would be, you know, the most famous man in, you know, I would probably be broke, but I would, right. You know, it would be this big deal. On YouTube, that's exactly how it works. Yeah. They have to sit there for 5 seconds. If they skip, then you don't pay a cent. So what you get is this ability to expose everyone in your market to like your name and what you do. And like, if you say like, hey, I'm Zack and I'm here from, you know, like Nashville, REI. And like, that takes you 5 seconds. People are going to get that message
before you even have to pay.
Hundreds of times before you have to pay anything.
Yeah.
So it's like this thing where that's such a paradigm shift that it's actually very hard to wrap your head around. But I think the marketing landscape for investors, it's a slow changing market overall. But I think very quickly investors are starting to catch up and they're starting to realize like, hey, there is a ton of value to be had here. Value both to deliver to my market and to pull out of the market in terms of leads. And I need to be there, right? And I think people are just kind of waking up to that now.
So I think you did a great way when it comes to the segmenting. I just did that. Okay, there it goes. I forget to do this every single time. Hold on, Zack attack. So my point to where I'm going with this is the process. You have to edit that out, Justin. So my point to where I'm going with this is now everyone is clear. Let's dig into some of what you're seeing as a marketer for investors. So for example, we like to ask, like, what are the 3 main marketing platforms where you're seeing the majority of the leads coming in from? I know you say you need everything, but if we was to narrow those down to 3 high performers, what would you say they really are in your world, being on the backside of all these investors and getting to see like true numbers for this stuff?
Yeah. So, and I will say too, I'm going to preface this by saying it's sort of a good time to do the show because we are in a moment, like right now as we're recording this, we are in a moment of major change and flux to this setup that has been very consistent for like the last 5 years. So I'm going to give you what's working, but I'm also going to give you like what's changing so that people can listen to this. They can be a little bit ahead of the curve. Okay. So forever, the 3 primary channels we have used and that have gotten the best kind of return on ad spend have been Google ads. So specifically Google search ads. So like you go in Google, you type in sell my house and you see an ad pop up, right? Now that's really, really powerful because in that moment, the seller is looking for a solution to this problem. And so the whole dynamic between lead and investor is very different. Those leads close really aggressively. Like I think for our clients, the current close rate for Google Ads, about 1 out of every 15 leads that they get. So 15 emails, 15 calls, whatever it is.
What's the average CPL on those, cost per leads?
So cost per lead nationally ranges between $100 and $200 depending on your market. So average cost per
That's on Google, right?
On Google search ads. So cost per deal acquisition ranges between like $2,500, $3,500 depending on the market.
Yeah.
Also really depends on how well you close. And
of course, like how good you are on the phone, things like that.
Exactly, all that stuff. But those are very consistent numbers. I mean, those are numbers we've run for like a decade, right? So I'm like, cool. Now, then you go over and you have Facebook ads. Now, the way that Facebook ads differ from Google is you think about if you're on Facebook and you see an ad, right? Let's say like I see ads all the time for like, special vitamin packs that are based on my DNA or something stupid. Right. So I'm not searching for that. Facebook is guessing that I'm going to want that based on other stuff that I've done. Right. Exactly.
Bingo. Yeah.
So I match a profile, but they don't know that I need it. And so similarly, when you get into the seller space, what ends up happening is those leads are significantly cheaper, but they close less often. So I always say like Facebook is the kind of platform where someone will fill out a form, contact you, and then when you call them, they'll be like, I didn't fill out any form.
Oh, I know. Trust me. You're speaking right into my language. Like, it's like, wait a minute. We just got a form from you like yesterday or today. Like,
it's like, I have a video of you filling out this form. And they're like, I didn't do that. And you're like, okay. Right. So, so I would say Facebook's probably closer to like 1 out of 30, 1 out of 35 as a national average.
What's a national average for your clients on CPL, cost per lead?
It's probably around... For Facebook's probably between 3,000 and 4,000.
For a lead?
For deal acquisition.
I meant for a lead. Just for the CPL.
Yeah, it can be anywhere between like 20 and 50 bucks, really. You can get it quite low. Here's the catch with Facebook. A lot of the times, the stuff that you do to get leads more cheaply means they close less often. So what we've actually started doing in Facebook is we actually make it a little harder for them to contact us. I will make them jump through more hoops because I'm like, I don't want to waste my client's time. Right. So, each of these channels kind of has its own weird personality.
And I don't mean to keep cutting you off. I just have lots of questions. So if Google, obviously someone's actually looking for us on Google and they're coming through and then they're getting onto our page and we're pixeling that page, do you have your clients lean a little bit more in on Facebook for retargeting? Like, hey, I saw you came by my page, wanted to know about your house. Do you do a lot of that as well?
Yeah, so definitely retargeting, which is just like you're saying, it's following someone with an ad because they've been on your page before. We always do retargeting. Facebook retargeting is actually really great. And one of the things about Google that's extremely annoying is that Google has retargeting too, but you need to have spent at least like $15,000 with them before they let you use it, which is, it's ridiculous. It makes no sense whatsoever. Facebook, they're like, oh, you want to give me $5? Here, I'll take your $5.
I know, right? Exactly.
Exactly. So I don't understand like what the thing is. So we always retarget on Facebook, and the retargeting audiences kind of have their own sort of behavior to them, right? Because they're a little bit warmer. They've already been on the site, and so we'll follow those people with ads that just say, hey, call me, but we'll also follow them with like value add content. We'll follow them with video testimonials. I almost view that more as a follow-up process than I do advertising.
I agree with you. That's why we use retargeting. All right. So you got Google and Facebook. What was the third one, Dan?
And then the third one I would really say that pretty much everyone needs is some kind of Google organic. So thinking about search engine optimization, SEO. Right? And, it's still within Google, still within Google search, but you're not paying per click. What you're doing is putting in the labor and the effort, ranking that site, and then getting those leads for free. Now, the thing about that is that the ROI on that it's absolutely massive. I mean, if you take any market, any investing market where people are doing deals, the amount of organic traffic is going to be anywhere from 4 to 5 times the size of the available ad traffic, right? So if you're getting like, let's say 200 clicks from a given keyword in Google Ads, that keyword could probably generate anywhere from like 700 to 800 additional clicks organically if you can get in the top 2 or 3 spaces.
Right. Yeah. But real estate keywords are hard to get in. I mean, you have the magic tools.
Well, so I'll say 2 things about that. I mean, one, what I always say is it's actually way less difficult than people think it's going to be, because investors specifically have a history of massively undervaluing SEO and not wanting to pay any money to do it. Yeah. And so they all kind of have terrible SEO. So it's
good point.
It's like, we'll have people that are like, I'm already killing it in my market, take a look at my website and like, tell me what you think I could do. And I'm like, it looks like a monkey did this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, the bar is pretty low in our industry in general. So it's like, but then the other flip side of that is that Google's really changed the way that it works, and it's really changed the way that keywords function specifically. And I don't want to get too much into the technical details, but like the way people think about Google is like, I type in sell my house fast or whatever it is, and I go to the sell my house fast page. And on that page, I have, in ranked order, websites that rank for the keyword sell my house fast. Like, that's how people think it works. In actuality, it doesn't work like that pretty much at all. What happens is when you type in sell my house fast, Google takes a dozen or more criteria, like where you're located, what time it is, your past search history, all the stuff you've ever clicked on. It then looks at a bunch of websites and thinks what matches for you in this moment, and then returns those things specifically. So for example, if I type in sell my house, I might get one result. But if I type in sell my house, and then I go back to the front page of Google and I type in sell my house fast, I'm going to get different results than if I just did that out of order. The other thing to think about is that for every single time that happens, anytime somebody types in sell my house fast, those rankings essentially update all over again. So what happens is there's way more movement and way more variation in terms of what Google actually shows people, which means it's actually easier to get traffic from a keyword now than it was 10 years ago. Yeah. And like the other thing is that like Google is investing a lot, like millions of billions of whatever, trillions of dollars into, probably not trillions, I don't know numbers, but a lot of money. They're investing a lot of money into machine learning and artificial intelligence. And what they want is a machine that understands what you want. Like if you go to Google and you type in like top hat guy dead ? It will give you Abraham Lincoln's assassination date. Like it knows what you want. It's like it gets it, right? So more and more what's happening is that like, let's say you're a real estate investor and you build a killer site and you don't even think about keywords. You haven't thought about a keyword since you built this site, but the site is awesome. Everyone loves it. People spend a lot of time on it. People link to it. You will show up for every single one of those real estate investor keywords that you might want, even if you don't use those keywords anywhere in your website, because Google understands like this guy's an investor. He buys houses. This person wants to sell a house. I'm going to put them together, right? So when we do SEO for clients, it always blows people's mind because they're like, what's the keyword list that you're going to target? And I'm like, it's only 3 keywords long. It's literally 3 keywords. Because I'm like, if we rank for sell my house fast and we buy houses, and I literally forget what the other one is because it almost doesn't matter. If we rank for these in your market, we're going to rank for everything else, right? We don't have to try. Google's going to understand. All we have to do is kill it for these 3 keywords. And it's like, the keywords are magic. You could pick your own 3 keywords. Right. So there's a lot of
that's some good information there, Danny, man.
I know. I'm like giving away the strategy. But
You're like just laying it all out.
Yeah.
Hey, answer me this, because we're coming on the downside here.
Okay. I'm just getting warmed up, Zach. I'm just getting warmed up.
I can see that, man. Like, you got a lot of good information, stuff I haven't even heard. So tell me, we're going to talk about two things real quick. Yeah. Tell me what a new investor, what is one of the biggest mistakes they make when they're coming out trying to create a web presence, and they build a website, whatever the case may be, but now they realize they need to hire a guy like you. You look at what they've got and you're like, oh my gosh, I see this all the time. What's one of those big mistakes?
So yeah, there's a bunch of these, and I'm always very careful to say, like, so I'll say the broadest problem that I see, right, is just paying for low quality work. And I want to be clear that, like, this is not necessarily a knock on people who price their services low, because that's not necessarily it. You could pay a lot of money to someone and have them do terrible work.
Oh, trust me, I know that one.
Yes. I mean, anyone who's been in business long enough, I was telling this story before, but I paid $50,000 to a guy to run my own Facebook ads, and he generated about $5,000 in sales from that money. So I'm like, hey, guess what? If I just burned like 90% of my money, I would have had the exact same result, right? So it happens all the time. So what I will usually say as a specific, right, to pull out, because I think most investors are going to get approached cold by someone who's like, hey, I'm going to get you to the top page in Google for yada, 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 and it's $300 or whatever. And the way that I always vet these people is I say, ask them about what they're going to do for links. How are they going to build links, which is just like someone linking to your website? Yep. How are they going to build it, right? And almost always what they're going to say is, oh, don't worry, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to build you 10 to 20 high quality links a month. And I'm like, yeah, so you may face, that's total BS. It's 100% BS. Because I'm like, if you just look out and you say, who in my market just loves to link to real estate investors? The answer is nobody, right? Like, nobody wants to link to a real estate investor. Right. It's really hard. So like when we work with a client, to put this in perspective, typically we'll work, depending on the project, it'll be 90 to 120 days to do SEO with us, right? And we'll be like, we are going to break our backs and put in like 60-hour weeks, and we're going to build 5 links. And those links are going to be amazing. They're going to be 100% legit. We're going to lean on relationships we've spent a decade building in order to build these 5 links. And, it's not the cheapest thing because it's a ton of work, but it has the effect that you want. But if you look at like any top investor in your marketplace, literally just Google around, look at the top 3 investors, I guarantee they have garbage, bogus, spam links, like linking to their thing. And that means they paid some dude $150 to build them links,
right? Because
that's what they thought they needed.
And they're linked to something that has no relevancy to what you're doing in most cases, and their page has no relevance, and so it's a useless backlink. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. It's not even useless. I literally probably get a client a month purely because they had someone build links and then their site like disappeared from Google. And so it's like, hey, my website is dead. Can you resurrect? And I'm like, the reason it's dead is because Google knows you built these garbage links, and that's explicitly against their terms of service. So they just delisted you, right? It happens all the time. There's actually a tool that Google had to make so that you could disavow links that someone else built for you, because it's such a common practice. And so I always say, like, if they build legit links, they're a legit SEO. Almost always. It's basically like a one-to-one relationship. Right. And if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is, right?
All right. Well, next question for you then. Answer me, what is it that you would say that is something that they are doing right? Like the novice person that's really hustling, they've gone out, they've got some really good websites, and I don't know, maybe they're making some videos for themselves, putting them on YouTube, walking their properties, anything like that. What's something that you would say, hey, look, if you're doing this, keep doing this because this is useful?
Oh, that's a great question. Everyone always asks what people are doing wrong. Almost nobody ever asks what people are doing right. So that's really, really cool. I will tell you, I had a student come through my coaching program, and had the highest conversion rate. So his page got more sellers to contact him per, let's say, 100 clicks than anyone I've ever seen. Like, he crushed it. And then he was closing left and right. And I was like, wow, I'm a genius. This must be because my amazing techniques that I taught him or whatever. And, but I couldn't figure it out because he was way outpacing everyone else. And so I did this whole series of interviews with him. And here's what I found. This guy was, he was in a really competitive market. I want to say it was like Houston or something, really competitive market. He was a nurse. He's like a full-time nurse during the day. And so he was like, this is just a way for me to kind of like retire, and it's a side business. So his website was called Nurse Buys Houses. I think you can still find it, Nurse Buys Houses. His logo was like a picture of like a dude in scrubs, a bunch of pictures of him on the website. He would go to the meetings with the sellers in his scrubs, right? He had this whole story.
Yeah.
And you knew his name. He had a picture of his face. When he did the videos, he was like, hey, what's up, guys? It's like Jack from Nurse Buys Houses, and he would just work it into his whole thing. And what I always say is, like, if you go to 98% of investor websites, they have no personality. Not only do they have no personality, I don't know who I'm calling, right? It's like, Nashville Fast Houses, cash offer.cash or whatever is the website. And it's all stock photos and there's no names or anything. And it's this very dehumanizing kind of anxiety-ridden experience. If you like put yourself in the shoes of a seller who's in this tough situation that needs to ask for help, and they're going to call this like anonymous beast of a corporation that just all they do is like churn out houses like theirs left and right, it's like nerve-wracking. And so the fact that this guy like put himself out there, he had a story, he's like, hey, I'm local, that this is why I'm doing this is how it's going to work. People loved him, and they would sell their houses to him for less. Like, they would get better offers from other investors and they would go with him instead because they made an emotional connection with him. Like, as much as we want to believe that investing is a numbers game, it's an emotional game as well. And the easiest way to tap into that is just tell your story. Like, tell it in your marketing, tell it on your website, put a picture of your face.
I think that is a golden nugget, man. I really do, because you're right. I mean, so many times we hide behind the brand, or we hide behind this omni effect of a big company, right? And people, they want to know you, like, who am I going to buy from? But and here's what is even more astonishing. Like, we know that in our marketing, like, we know like the big fancy postcards don't work. We know like the little, handwritten, personal, hey, I'm local, I'll buy from you. Those get our highest response rates, but our websites don't reflect that. Yeah.
I mean, I always say, like, there's a reason yellow letters have been a thing literally forever.
Right.
And I'm like, you don't necessarily want your website to look like a 4-year-old hand drew it, but you want it to have some personality, and just literally just putting a picture of yourself on the front page of the website, and like, just like a selfie, and be like, hey, this is who you're going to call. Like, it's like, hey, Zack attack,
I'm
right?
buying
like,
houses.
Like, what up? Yeah. I mean, I think that goes so far, and it has ripple effects all the way down to when you're sitting down and signing papers, right? So
I love it, man. Dan, that was another good nugget you threw out, man.
Yeah,
like just dropping bombs on us today.
Yeah, I'm lucky this podcast is going to be 3 hours long. I can really.
I know, right? I'll tell them, be like, okay, this podcast is actually 4 times longer than any of the other podcasts.
Yeah.
Hey, all right, so this is my last question for our viewers, and then I'm going to hit you with some hot fire questions.
All right.
What's the best advice you could give to somebody? Let's say they're just starting out, they don't have a whole lot of money, they want to get into some online marketing for their business. What's the best advice you would give that person?
Yeah. So what I always say is, like, I said this at the beginning of the show, right? But to me, I get super passionate about what I do, because to me, what I do is not about the marketing piece, is not about like that part. It's about saving people's businesses. Because I really fundamentally believe we're in a massive tectonic shift in the real estate industry, and you need to be out there somewhere. So what I always say is, like, it almost doesn't matter what you do as long as you do something. So it could be just, I would say like the easiest way to do this, take one page of your website a week and just spend that week thinking about it, making it a little better, tweaking it, putting a picture on it. Then when you're done, move on to the next page, right? Likewise, if you like want to get into Google Ads and you like don't really know where to go, you know, you can just start with like pick one keyword and put one ad on it and figure out how to do that. And then boom, then you're done for that week.
Right.
You know, it's one of these things where having some kind of systematic approach in place is actually way more powerful than just trying to go all in on something you're not sure about, because most investors are going to jump into this channel and try to get a deal out of it as quickly as humanly possible, and then they bail. So it's like one of the reasons I said that like it's actually easier than you think it's going to be is because most people don't stick with it. And so they never see this massive ROI that's possibly there for them, right? So even if it's just small steps, one after another, pretty soon you're going to be way far ahead of other people in your market, right? Could be putting a video on YouTube, could be anything.
And I agree with you. I have a good friend of mine. I don't know. Do you know a guy by the name of Derek Pierce?
I don't. Yeah, I'm not familiar.
Oh, he's a good friend of mine. He's been in the SEO space for a long time, and he's constantly preaching what you're preaching. Same exact words. Like, people don't see the value in it. People don't want to pay for it. You know, it's not an immediate result. It takes time. You know, you got to put all this out there. You got to link these things up. He's like, but at the overall picture, it's the best thing you'll ever do for your business, because once it's there and it's set, it just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And I look at some of the guys I remember starting 10 years ago, and they moved into SEO, and I see where they are today, 10 years later. And they're like, yeah, I don't spend anything on that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild, man. It's like, I have a friend who's, he used to be like a strongman competitor, and that was like a long time ago, but he still looks like it, right? He's like totally ripped. He's got like no body fat. It's like all muscle. And I like killing myself at the gym, like just to like, just to see a little vein pop out on my bicep like once a year. And I was like, how much, I was talking to him the other day, and I was like, how often do you go to the gym? And he's like, I don't know, like once or twice a month. And I'm like, what, bro? You look like Popeye right now. Like, what is your secret? And he was like, well, I just have it, and it's way easier to maintain it than it was to get it. Right. So I'm like, first of all, I hate your guts. And then second of all, okay, I gotta keep grinding.
Oh man, this has been great, Dan. All right, hot fire questions for you, man. Here we go.
Do it.
This is what everybody, they always love these things. Just to know you a little bit better. All right, what's the best place you've ever been on vacation?
Best place I've ever been on vacation, Paris, France. I went there with my wife last year. Yeah, it was sick.
Awesome. What was your first automobile?
I'm a red Dodge Spirit that my brother and I called the second base mobile. I hope that's okay on this podcast. There's no, just so people know.
Second base, first base, second base, third base, home, right? Baseball game, right?
I was more aspirational than anything.
I understand. Yeah. They say nerds win in the end, so.
The very end, on your deathbed. Yeah.
Favorite season or holiday?
Autumn is my favorite season. Christmas is my favorite holiday.
Awesome.
Sure. Yeah.
What's the best podcast you've listened to? Business, motivation, it doesn't matter.
Oh man. So this is it's the best podcast I listen to for business. The one I like the most is there's the OK Dork podcast by Noah Kagan, who runs AppSumo. He's very, very open about his own business processes, and I really like that. But if anybody's into mixed martial arts out there, this guy, Luke Thomas, has an amazing podcast that digs into that sport. And he's very, very smart. So I just like listen to smart people talk about stuff.
Love it. Is that why you like to listen to yourself talk?
Oh my, I'll tell you, man, it's like music to my ears. That's how I just sing myself to sleep every night. It's fine.
I tell people, look, if you catch me talking to myself, it's because I'm the smartest one in the room.
Yeah, why not? I'm my own best friend here.
Hey, what's your favorite food?
Macaroni and cheese.
Boom! Look at you.
That is God's food right there, man.
I'm telling you, man. Are you early to rise or late to rise?
I'm early to rise.
Yes. Best work. That's where I get my best work done.
Absolutely.
All right. What's your favorite book?
Favorite book of all time. The book I have reread the most is The History of Western Philosophy by Bertrand Russell, which is...
You would say that because you were going to be a history teacher.
I was going to be a history teacher. It is, I'll tell you what, it looks like a phone book, so it's a little intimidating, but they're pretty short chapters. They go in chronological order. It's like all the great philosophers of Western history. And it's incredibly easy to read. He's funny a lot of the time. I mean, Bertrand Russell is like the sort of like the father of logical philosophy in the sort of modern day. And man, it is, it'll make you feel real smart, but it is fun to read. And I probably come back to it every 2 or 3 years. It's a great book.
That's awesome, man. All right. Tell me this. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Alien.
Is it really?
Man,
I can't say I've had that one yet.
You haven't watched Alien?
Oh, I've watched Alien.
Oh, all right. You know and said it.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, here's the thing I like about Alien. The alien is incredible. Like now we all know what the alien looks like. But in Alien, they don't show the alien until like 75% of the way through the movie.
Right.
It is straight up suspense. I love that stuff.
Yeah, I like suspense too. My problem is I'm constantly trying to figure it out. So I'm like in this battle in my head. And like if anybody says anything, I'm like, shh, everybody stop talking.
Well, have you ever watched Jacob's Ladder? You know that movie? Yeah, that's probably tied there. I love that movie too.
Yeah. What was the other one that had me kind of in a whirl? Was it 12 Monkeys, 13 Monkeys?
Yeah, 12 Monkeys. Yeah.
Not a lot of people know about that one.
We had a band T-shirt that it was the Monkeys, like the 12 Monkey logo, but it said the band name under it. So I made that by hand. It took forever.
I throw that out, and people are like, "What's that?" Like, what's that?
Such a great movie.
Yeah. Really
this is the best part of the podcast so far. These are all great movies that everyone should go and watch. Alien, Jacob's Ladder, and 12 Monkeys.
Yeah, the whole point is look, business is good, but life is better, right?
Absolutely, man.
So, hey, Dan, I appreciate you, man. I'm glad you got to come on and share some of your knowledge. You definitely, you threw some down, man. And AdWordsNerds.com. That's where they can go check you guys out and see what you're up to, right?
Yep, AdWordsNerds.com. Yeah, look me up. You can you can Google it and we'll come up. I think I'm pretty sure we'll come up. But yeah, just come over and
come up.
Yeah. I mean, we got it's like I've got a podcast, we got a Facebook group, we got a ton of free stuff. I always say like you could learn, and I've had people say this, like do multiple deals off of the free stuff that we teach through the website and group. So I always say like you don't have to spend a lot of money. My job is to help as many investors like adjust to the marketplace as it is right now as humanly possible. So if you just want to hit me up, let me know and I'll point you in the right direction.
Love it, guys. So right there, you heard it from Dan. I know this might have been a little bit of like, whoa, what is this? But here's the thing. Like you hear about people doing hundreds, 200, 300 deals a year, but I can promise you this. They've got to get their leads from somewhere, and they're not all getting it through direct mail or word of mouth or referral. They're using online. They're using guys like Dan in his company to drive that into the bag. So we just kind of pulled the curtain back on it and pulled the marketer to the front so that you guys could really see what's going on. So Dan, thanks again for being on my Coffee with Closer show.
Hey man, any excuse to drink coffee. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate you having me on. So thank you.
No, man, we're glad you were here. Hey guys, we will see you on another one. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the little bell down there. Make sure you get notified when the next one comes out because we want your feedback. Write comments. Let us know what you liked about it. Let us know what you didn't like. I'd love to hear from you, okay? This is Zack Attack, and I'm out.